당한데 대 지우칼라케요. 지우르칼라데 엔드네 망조. 그래서 아니면 그냥 간주 춘들을 돼. 간주 춘들을라. 맞아. 게티든지 말라 피게요래. 게시티든지 말라. 게라게 송셰도. 맞아. 템종은 혼자 통거든. 땡이들 유튜브 채팅창으로 드셔. 채팅창 가대. 간주신들라. 단다 군두게 송주 게티든지 말라 피게요라. 아니 게티든지 말라게. 송년가 돼. 송신년가 돼. 짜든종이 개개디 제요 맞다. 짜든 혼자 통거든.当球看了这次嘛的球也不行是，球了不送给谁的？球什么的，他们自己永久民族，他们那个的，他们那个可能不要不中个多，球什么他们的是的，这球看了这次他这，地马高的。총 다시 될래. 총 다시 될래. 총 가오대. 다시 될래. 총 아니 간주 춘들이라. 기시티든지 말라기 단다 군디 가자 차페사. Voice for the voiceless 콜라 게라 송신나가 패기도 치세니도 차가 단다 치세 당부 순로도 아니 헬레 주로디야. 남시 쇼게 니마 샤베키우도 양디르시 장무 농자드샤 다데 콜로 게다 마신 쇼차데 남시디 예 데리 안서 간주친데 도에라 같이데 도에나는 게시트된 좀 말라 군디고 차pen디게 다 선바보 게라 마피게래 간주친데 게라 디고라 다 송셰당아요래 마드디고라 지와티에디 게라사마 간주친데 레도 신바이 voice for the voiceless 간주 춘들이 도야라 데 모나가디야 무시데데 데 모나가 차이다 모나가 마시게 되레기 동안이
데 모달레타 소
The news coming from China,
yeah.
and whatever the news goes inside the China is all filtered.
Yeah, it's obvious.
So, Tibet.
아니 맥도날드 바티스 나타도 맥도날드 네, 랑가를 매도 조상칠했어. 맨도 ben이 주는데. 아, 주주 다양디. 넘치 좋아주는 농가드셔. 안토데 간주신데를 냈어. 가만히 간주신데를 내도. 들이 추가 개냐서 배선 주게래. 세딘총 세대총 가대.
아,
세대총 가대.
된다 간주데 간신들린 레토도. 아니, 된다 나로지. 된다 미망부 슐레서 들 모터 슐레서.
사님은
간주 산님아기 다 부망부 슐레데. 다데 탐세 인가 도다.
간주 총들레레서. 김바오데 추샤.
Is presented by the Tibetan Canadian Cultural Center, where we will be exploring His Holiness's latest book, Voice for the Voiceless. Before we begin, we'd like to offer a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge
we are deeply honored to welcome Kishitudin Jimila to this important event at the Tibetan Canadian Culture Center. Kishila has been closely associated with TCCC for decades, playing
the Kanjachudelinia, Chitan, Shiri, Teoyota, Haporto Pugela, Pugri Shumata to Zutolia, Saniments to Toyata, Temegi, Luma Pocitolia, Nalia, and the Ledomchi, Tenamson, the Zuja Gabria, Munatanegi, Jesuranchu, and it Cantange, Chevina, a charm a China American segment, Katachi Java Pug, Chiloya, San and Chiganalia, Put the Tom Chishu, the Toronto Chagore, at a zingin, Zemote, Etimen Abduchon, Mongodle, Tabaki Vena, Mongodle, Toronto, Roma Chade or Das. The Dugal Toronto, Sapuki, the Maranzo, Tejo Nagoya, Pumit to the Chishu Chari, Dugalia, Digi. Toronto Yale, Pimito, Chizote, Tsatsu Yane, Pebet G, Zadun, Miri Shun, Wichelia, Shivuji, Deoyo, Nega Chata, Nizu Chari, they do got Talende, and then Panda, Chizo Nolo, Tumbu Chicago, Share Mato, Pebato, Gambe Chan, Gyunji Kario, Sanato, Mido Gamba Tikete, Nunsen, Shuru, the Degatone. Chok Denche, Usuju, that Temakuria, Madun Passaji, Pavich, the Negitone, Chorchin and Navy, Tanja Short, Gangetezio, and then they to Naroya, Tubudu, and Harbor Tajine, Unshuyan, Shui, Shuya, Marantu, Yushun Chuku, Namo, Legitimate, Matzi Telemoto, Marantu, Yushun Ben Namone, Gunje Chad. 选过节的、抽点节的、地理的制度，马自马点的是也属于，那他不懂就可能多种多样的呀，越别可能的特别制度的，亲属的差别有对个了，加上吃过了呀，别对不是差别，一直给这个 proof of concept 是的 ，proof of concept，proof of concept 是的 ，proof 的，这在蛮多特别制度差出个难的，蛮难写的。 但假如拿了我们就西也不差别一张，滚的车那上面皮个有的，马上就 CT 全面就是皮个有的，拉不卡皮个有的，假如拿了呀，但毛不了呀，但没动静，刚开始看到嘛，都有些操作嘛，就是这样了，那讲我们是皮个属有的，这个的，但假如吃了了呀，他不都能做弄不了呀，特别 generated as a result of many of you reading this book. Kind of at the same time. So this is the main part of our event today. But before that, let me say a few words in Tibetan, okay? And then we'll get back to the book itself. Tomange talende kajin chudelingia kyarto jaje ngambato je ko chungde ka chu tuche shwe haborto tanda ngema tanda yongani borude 디게 칸베 거거다. 제거야 자자 토토다야 간지 토네 야제 쉬우지 치샤. 디 수르데 그거는 뭐지? 아니 단단 as someone who had the privilege to serve His Holiness as the main editor for this book, one thing that I was deeply touched was the way in which the younger generation of Tibetans truly engaged with this book. You know, I don't do social media myself, but I do have WhatsApp, so many of my colleagues and friends and family members sent me the images of what was happening in the social media world, particularly from the younger members of our community, sharing their feedback, critical reflections of what they got out of this book. So this youth engagement with this book has been truly, encouraging for me, particularly, and I also shared that with His Holiness when I was recently in India as well. And one of the things for me, of course, you need to read the book, and many of you have already read it. But this book should not be viewed simply as an autobiography of His Holiness, telling his story. Yes, of course, that's an important part of the book, which is autobiographical, because His Holiness was at the forefront of the movement right from the beginning when China invaded Tibet from eastern Tibet in 1950, when he was forced or compelled to take on the leadership of a nation under attack. Since then, he has been at the driver's seat, as it were, and has witnessed the tragedy of the Tibetan nation over this long period of time. And His Holiness, and one of the things that you will learn from this book is the amazing courage of His Holiness. You know, Yangila referred to this, His Holiness's first meeting with Chairman Mao. You know, all of you are probably older than 19 years old, and you can see, look back to your own age when you were 19. Where were you? Imagine at that age being confronted with the leader of this massive nation called China, very aggressive, communist, country, who has just invaded your country and who has summoned you to Beijing, and to be confronted with that, the courage with which His Holiness has responded. And in fact, I read in one historical book written by a Chinese author, and according to her, Jiang Li, who sadly passed away last year, Jiang Li, based on study of the records of Chinese sources, tells the story when His Holiness met with Chairman Mao in this session. Both of them bowed in an equal fashion, and he did not kowtow. So there was this engaging in something only if it can be achieved in your lifetime, then there is a selfishness attached to it. But if you are truly convinced of the nobility of the goal, then it shouldn't matter how long does it take for that goal to be realized. And when we are talking about a cause like Tibet, we're talking about struggle of a people. Generations will come and go, but people remains, nation remains. So when we think of Tibet, we have to think of Tibetan as a people, Tibet as a nation. Nation can exist within a country. So the problem in Tibetan, we don't have a separate word for nation and country, but in English we do. And in English conception, it is not contradictory to have nationhood within a country. So if you think of United Kingdom, Wales and Scotland are nations within a United Kingdom. And that's why Wales and Scotland can send their representatives to the Olympics, representing their nations. So Tibetans, we should, even though we are not asking for full independence, but we should not give up the idea of Tibet as a nation. So this, I think, is really crucial.
Participants are registered today, and through selecting the questions and filtering it out, we have come up with a few questions that we're going to ask you today. Following My Land and My People and Freedom in Exile, Voice for the Voiceless is His Holiness' third book, where he recounts his journey as a leader of the Tibetan nation and people, and chronicles his decades-long effort to resolve Tibetan issues with the Chinese leadership that have come and gone. So my question is, in your view, how does this book speak to or depart from his previous autobiographies? What prompted His Holiness to write this book at this very particular moment?